Sorry guys, now look at that. I kept talking and it was, my mic was on mute. Sorry about that. Alright, looks like we have to start all over again. Can you guys hear me now? Mic check. Mic check. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello? Thanks. Awesome. So you guys can hear me now. Alrighty. Let me start all over again. Yes, so basically from the beginning, I stated basically that the topic for today is 5 simple ways to profit consistently from trading. And there's a form of disclaimer. I'm not here to give you any form of advice, but just to give you great information. And if you have any questions, please feel free to either type it in or if you want me to unmute you, I can unmute you easily if you have a mic, and you can basically just state it out loud. All right, what is the agenda? Simply, I'm going to talk about, a bit more myself. Probably already seen that. Finding about your main challenge in trading, the facts of trading, the $1 million question that a lot of traders always ask, and then I'm going to talk between trading versus sport, and the 5 simple ways to profit consistently from trading. Now, this webinar is currently being recorded, so if you have to leave early, feel free. That's no problem at all, and I can basically email you guys the recorded one. I know it's going to go through 4:30 on an hour and a half, but I might go over depending on the topic and depending on your questions as well. All right, and at the same time, for the month of August, I'm giving away $15,000 trading education, mainly a coaching program, a mentorship. All right, let's move on. So, since you didn't listen to me earlier, I'm the founder and head educator of Enlightened Super Trader Education since 2003. Started based in Australia and moved to the US in 2007. Also worked with other companies out there, but went on my own due to the agendas of what the education industry basically brings. Unfortunately, it's not regulated. Trading is not regulated in terms of the education industry, not like being a doctor or a lawyer where you need a certification. So at the end of the day, from what I've seen, yes, there is no foolproof trading system, and what I've seen is simply about about money, right? It's a big business, pretty much. So they know that there's no foolproof. So if they could just easily upsell their products, then it would work for them. So all at the same time, hence why I also wrote the book, Why You Could Be Destined to Fail in Trading, how you can avoid it, just simply to give the message across about the pitfalls of trading. There's a certain element or there's a certain ingredient in order to be successful in trading, and because there's such a big statistics out there, and it's not about the system at the end, it's not about the system, which I will be talking to you today. And part of that is the ingredient should be based on the be, do, have trading principle, meaning that you need to have a certain characteristic, certain attitude, a certain being. This is part of your human being, right? The beingness, the oneness of who you are as an individual. Then you take action, and then the end result is whatever the end result. So like say, for example, last night's topic through the group coaching is that one student wasn't still happy in terms of the end result, despite her consistencies and making a good amount of pips in the currency markets. It's called price interest points on a consistent monthly basis. So what she basically turned out to be is that she's measuring her success based on the amount of money that she has to make, not based on the process. So the key to consistent profitability is about the process. So if you're in a learning environment, you shouldn't, technically speaking, be thinking about the money aspect, but you'll be thinking about your learning stage in terms of trading, because later on the money will basically come. All right. Yeah, everything's about money, right? And unfortunately, that's through the industrial period, industrial age, it's been that way. Right? It's about the money. But if you really think about it on a spiritual level, everything has come down to the learning process in terms of the process itself from point A all the way to point B, because the money is just the end result of what you have created from point A, right? Part of who you are as an individual. So the foolproof emotional flow chart is simply an emotional flow chart, and since trading is a lot of emotions that's involved, if you cannot be able to control your emotions, then it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, especially fear or greed or regret. So the full commercial flow chart is simply a checklist that keeps you in check based on your emotions, that once you execute the trade, that there shouldn't be any type of any emotion, that you should be happy of the process of your trading system or methodology. So my philosophy between sport and trading are basically the same. As an athlete for the past basically 25 years or 27 years. So my approach to trading is very similar to sport, and hence in my perspective there's no difference. The only difference, unfortunately, is just the physical aspect, but the mental game aspect is the same. I'm also a regular speaker and article contributors to hedge funds or proprietorship companies, and also to article-based like the trading problem. So that's who I am. I'm not here to boost my ego, but simply just to share with you of what I do as a peak performance trader coach. All right, moving on. Trading will always going to have its own challenges. Now, what I want you to do, and as much as possible in my webinars, is that I want to be fully engaged with the listener. Unfortunately, when it comes to webinar-based, it's a little bit more of a challenge, because on the opposite end, you can have easy distractions from your mobile phones, from your emails, and so forth. If you have a family next to you, perhaps someone can bug you or whatnot, but it could be easily be distracted. So, you should easily have your trading journal next to you, and as much as I can, to be engaging. And at the same time, what I want from you is to do the homework, because it could actually, or do the exercise, could it actually help you. All right, so question number one is simply, what challenges are you currently facing with your trading right at this moment? So if you're trading stocks and the market has been basically tanking to the downside, and you're currently long, then you didn't make money. Either you are break even, you lost money, or probably you made money if you shorted, right? Likewise, if you're trading futures or you're trading stocks, or currencies. So what challenges are you currently facing with your trading? If you're new to the trading game, and you're here to find out more about how to be more consistent, then perhaps what are your challenges at this point in time? Is it currently finding a good, solid education center out there, the books that probably you're currently reading or you're currently learning? So what are they? So what challenges are you currently facing with your trading? It could be profitability, it could be emotional fear, it could be fear of execution, fear of missing out, perhaps greed. So what would that be? All right, I'm going to mute myself for about a minute or two, and then we're going to discuss that question. All right, over and out. All right, who would like to share? So what challenges are you currently facing with your trading at the moment? Since the topic today is simply about how to be consistent, profitable trader. So what are your current challenges at the moment? Can you hear me, by the way? I hope you can. And you can still see my screen, right? Okay, thank you. All right, so what challenges are you currently facing with your trading? Okay, switching systems, outcome bias. Okay, great, thank you for sharing. What else? Fear of losing money, thank you. Great, yeah, fear of losing is actually on the top 2 list. Anything else? One more? Awesome, fear of success. Great, that's actually one of my limiting beliefs before was actually fear of success. Okay, where the market is going. Awesome. Okay, so thank you for sharing. All right, let's move to the next question. So if there is one thing you could change or do differently with your trading right now, what would that be? So if there is one thing you could change or do differently with your trading, what would that be? So say, for example, if fear of losing. So if there's one thing you could change or do differently with your trading so you won't have the fear of losing, what would that be? Or if you have your major challenge of where the market is going, so what can you do differently in order for you to know more of where the market is going? All right, I'll mute myself and then we're going to talk more about it. Okay, Brian basically started the greed factor, exit trade sooner. Okay, great. Nice, we can talk more about that too. Well, in actual fact, that was the main topic last night, part of our group coaching last night. Exit trade sooner. You see, trading systems are not created equal. Depending on what trading system you're using, of course. I mean, there's discretionary type of trading, there's mechanical type of trading, there's indicator type of trading, there's price pattern trading, there's trend following type of trading, there's support and resistance, there is day trading systems, there's swing trading systems. So, and there are different variables. Actually, one person actually emailed me today wanting to know more in terms of his risk averseness, and I basically told him, I said, well, in order for me to assist you, I really need to know more in terms of what you do. So based on success or the end result, so say for example fear of losing, for example, or the greed, not knowing when to get out. Systems, unfortunately, are being created by the person who is in sync within their own personality and within their own behavior. Now, if that system is being taught to a person who doesn't have the same personality type, doesn't have the same risk averse, doesn't have the same responsibility or what we call conscientiousness, then it's going to be a big issue. Likewise for what we call the emotionality of neuroticism, meaning that if you're highly neurotic, you won't be able to handle your own emotions, you get fearful straight away, and then you're swing trading, then it's going to be a bit of a problem. Now, if at the same time, if you're more of a risk taker in your day trading, but could also, you're in the type of person who needs market action, when you're swing trading, it could be boring, and hence that trader could start micromanaging the account. So there the different variability in terms to find out whether is it really greed or is it really fear. All comes down to the personality type. Now, in terms when it comes to that, is simply, well, to trade. If you were at last week's workshop or webinar, to trade objectively is when the market can actually, the markets talk to us based on if you know how to read price action, if you know how to read the third dimension of what the market is basically dictating. If the market is saying to you to hap out, but you're not happing out, then yes, that could be considered as greed, because the market can only give you to a certain point, to a certain degree. So in other words, the best analogy I could basically put in is if you're playing golf and the distance of the ball to the flag is simply 50 yards. However, you want more than 50 yards, and now you're using a club of, say, I don't know, not a 7-iron, but you might be using a maybe a 9-iron, could go beyond 50 yards. Then it wouldn't work. Then the ball will go beyond 50 yards, right? So you need the right club in order for the ball to get closer to the flag or to the hole itself. In trading, it's also the same. Depending on what trading system what you're using, if the system is only dictating, hey, you can only make X amount of money from where you buy to where you're going to exit, then you got to get out based on the system or what's basically telling you. But if you want more, then it wouldn't work, right? Then that is not considered based on greed because we want more. However, there's nothing wrong for being greedy, for wanting more. What I got also from my coach is simply you need to follow the process of what your system is dictating. You have to follow that from point A to point B, plain and simple. And when I got that, bingo, okay. That's where the consistency came a little bit more. And then I changed my system, and then basically, of course, I also learned from professionals who used to trade on the floor and basically to help me fully understand about order flow and supply and demand. So these are the elements that you really should be working on, because systems, yeah, they're funky. There are a lot of different systems out there, but at the end of the day, everything's about price action. You know, as you would have learned from last week if you were at the class, right? Okay, great. Thank you for sharing, knowing your risk to kill all the market manipulators. Now, Cornell, yes, unfortunately, in the stock market world, there's always going to be manipulation. What's the average volume? There's $200 billion a day. Now, if you're trading in the currency world, it's going to be more or less manipulated because you're talking here $4 trillion a day. So for one institution to move that, it's kind of a bit more of impossible. Futures a little bit more or less. However, there's still a little bit more manipulation. But in the stock market, that's why I don't trade stocks anymore, is because of that. There's what we call phishing, or iceberg. All these type of things can occur. Gaps. I don't like gaps. Gaps are great as a trading strategy if you're a day trader. But in terms of definitely manipulation, yes, it always happens all the time, unfortunately. All right, let's move on. Do you have any more questions, issues, or challenges you want to, or mainly more you want to share based on that question? Or can I move on? Going once, twice. All right, let's move on then. All right, here's another one. Where will you be 12 months from now? So based on your current challenges, based on the things of what you're currently doing, if you're going to do the same thing over and over again, where do you think you can see yourself 12 months from now? Where will you be 12 months from now when it comes to trading? Okay, I'm going to mute myself, and then we're going to discuss it in about a minute or so. All right, let's discuss this. So where do you think will you be 12 months from now in terms of your trading? So if you currently still have these challenges of yours and nothing can be changed, where will you think you see yourself 12 months from now? Okay, anyone? Okay, hopefully I will have learned from my mistakes. Great. I'll be out of the market. Great, beautiful. Brian, you're absolutely right. However, the brain is the mind is just so smart. And remember, we only see 180 degrees that's in front of us. We cannot see 180 degrees what's behind us. Perfect analogy would be something like this. You learn how to play golf. If you learn how to play golf just by yourself, you won't be able to know whether if you're doing the right technique or not unless you go through a professional who can teach and who would be able to correct your technique. That teacher or that coach can see the 180 degrees, the 180 degrees that you can't see that's behind you. So even though we can be very aware of our limitations in terms of personal beliefs, but if you don't have someone who will be able to guide you in terms of coach you in order to get your limitations to get out of the way, it's still gonna be there. Why? Because habitual practices can be so ingrained within the subconscious that it takes time in order for that to be taken out. Hence why I love hypnosis a lot, because compared to your traditional psychology, is simply because it can go through to the root cause of what's happening in terms of that limitation. So hence that's why up to this day I still have a coach, and mainly simply to know more about my behavioral patterns, and part of that is also part of my limiting beliefs that I might have occurred when I was a kid or somewhere sometime that I basically locked into the subconscious mind. Right, if I don't change, I will be out of the market. Great, true, older and more wiser. Yes, sometimes though, even persons with a thick, there's a saying, right? It's hard to train an old dog new tricks. Is because if you have a certain mindset and you already believe that, and you don't change that, it will remain that way, or the person will remain that way until they die, unfortunately. So not unless we're willing to be open-minded and to get rid of those limitations, like I said, this is the only way we can go to the next level. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. Absolutely correct. All right, let's move on. Thank you for sharing, guys. And part of that is also now a feeling of regret, right? And regret simply means a feeling of sadness, repentance, or disappointment over something that has happened or been done. So say, for example, a great example, even though you know your system very well, but sometimes impulsiveness will occur and you don't know where impulsiveness will come from. You entered the trade anyway, and then it went against you. Then next thing you know, the shoulds, the coulds, the woulds, beating yourself up, can't believe you did that, bloody idiot, all this. And then all of a sudden you go back to square one, you followed your rules, you have your trading plan, and then you're making money consistently, and then you get reckless, you get impulsive, bam, then you self-sabotage yourself. Self-sabotaging is the biggest culprit when it comes to inconsistency, when it comes to trading. So that's also where fear of success will come into play. That if you are a person who works 9 to 5 and you have a habitual process of doing so, and then you also have a belief that maybe perhaps you've heard it from somewhere, that in order to be successful, in order to make a lot of money is through hard work as a limiting belief, and then you started trading, and then you make money overnight, you made more than what you earn on a monthly basis, the subconscious mind will automatically think and basically say, hey, this is way too easy. There is no way that I will be able to make that amount of money in a short period of time without doing nothing. So then what does the brain do? It will self-sabotage by making the system more complex, being impulsive, creating certain things without being aware, and hence now with one trade basically gives everything back to the market and more. That happens a lot in the trading world. So the only way for us to get rid of that is to simply be aware of that limiting belief, do certain processes within that limiting belief in order to reprogram that limiting belief in order to have a good supporting belief, right? The brain is simply this. You have your conscious, you have a filter in between, and you have your subconscious. Your conscious is simply what you can see right now, right? You can see where will you be in 12 months. It's basically your computer, your monitor. The subconscious is simply your hard drive that's been stored in there. So whatever you see or you've seen, you've heard, you've felt before, and you created a belief that made it true to yourself, then bingo, that creates the belief system, either supporting or limiting. Now, a great limiting belief is skepticism. If if a person is very skeptic a certain thing because somewhere in the past they've been probably fooled before, or they lost a lot of money, and now they start all of a sudden like, oh, they don't trust anybody anymore, they don't trust the system anymore, which creates skepticism. So, these are the, of course, the inner core, what's happening in terms of why a trader creates inconsistencies in the marketplace. I love this topic, but I need to move on. But nevertheless, I hope you're getting something from it. All right, the facts of trading. Always remember that trading is not a get-rich-quick scheme. I know that Cornell basically stated everything these days is about the money. Yes, it's about instant money. Everything's about marketing. Make 200% overnight with this and that. How many times you've seen that in terms of marketing tool. But at the end of the day, similar to a sport, to master a skill, it takes time. Trading is also a skill. It also takes time. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. So the more practice you do, the better you're going to be. And obviously, practice through live doing, not just through demo. I believe demo is not as productive as live trading. And the reason for it is because, like I said, the subconscious is so smart. It can detect what's real from what's not real. There is no certainty in trading, and hence this is where the fear of losing will come into play. So if you're a type of person, human beings actually need 6 types of emotional needs. One is what we call the emotional need of certainty, the security. The second is what we call the emotional need of uncertainty or the variability, in order to have a new challenge in life. And hence, that's why we trade, is because of the challenging things that can happen in the market on a day-to-day basis. We don't know what the future will hold, which creates the unknown, which creates the fear. Now, if you're a type of person who likes certainty in the markets, then you will experience fear because you want to have the certainty on where your trade is going to go. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. Similar to sport, there's no guarantees that that person is going to be a gold medal. When I used to compete a lot, I used to train 3 times a day, 6 days a week, but there are no guarantees that I'm going to win. However, it is a belief and trust and part of that training and planning and preparation that will lead me to give me a high probability of winning. Likewise, when it comes to trading. Your skill set, your knowledge, your experience, the more you have it, then you'll have more confidence, you'll have a bit more certainty based on the probabilities of what you're going to enter. This is why we cannot compete against, I call them black belts or Olympic elite traders like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and stuff, Merrill Lynch, is because they have all the information. They have all the tools, they have all the skills. But for us, we need to be our own fundamentalist, our own psychologist, our own executioner, our own specialist, our own market maker. Well, not a market maker, because we don't make the market itself, but at least own researcher in order to have the factual evidence on why we have to enter. And once we have all those factual evidence that can support our analysis, then we can enter with the highest probability of confidence, right? This can eliminate the fear. the fear of the unknown. All right, moving on. Trading is a game of probabilities. We cannot win all the time. However, if you know your win-to-lose ratio with a good risk money management, risk and money management, and good profit maximizing strategies, then at least you can be more consistent than the ordinary blow Joe who doesn't know about trading that much, right? 75% of currency retail traders lose. I'm going to talk more about that. 95% of stock retail traders lose, and 98% of futures retail traders lose in the markets. Day traders will lose 100% of their capital and more. Okay, and we'll talk more about that too. Now, as a currency trader, I use FXCM, and I got this as a main source because if you open up an account with any broker, they have to give their document and they have to release in terms of their profitability. What I've seen so far in the currency world has more probability of winning compared to losing. As you can see through here in the quarter from basically the year of 2012, on average, the unprofitability is between 69 to 74% of unprofitability. 2011 was approximately around 75%. 2010 was similar around 74, 75. It was a little bit bigger in 2009, around 79%, 78%. So at least, I can see the progress. Well, the only thing as well, the only difference too in 2012, since 2009 is very bullish. We're in a bullish market. Anybody can make money in a bullish market, and anyone can be a guru in any bullish market. But once there's a certain amount of volatility and the market starts to tank, this is where now a lot of traders will have issues. Why? Because they're not adaptable in the way how they trade. That when it's time to sell, they have to sell. If it's time to short, they have to short. If it's time to go sideways, they have to go sideways. All right, next. Moving on. 95% of traders have issues with their mindset due to emotions. This is basically from when I wrote the book. Part of my research after seeing hundreds of traders and interviewing them is simply that it's, at the end of the day, it's got nothing to do about the trading system, but mainly about their mindset. Hence, 95% of traders simply have issues with their mindset, and that's why they lose in the markets. I was at the Chicago Board of Trade, the Chicago Board of CBOE, Chicago Board of Exchange last month, and I basically spoke to 4 traders, and basically told me that 98% of futures traders lose money in the markets. Now, brokers have also stated that 95% of equity and options traders lose money. I spoke to one guy who's seen more than 10,000 traders as a broker. He owns a company called Scott Trade, and basically told me that 95% of stock traders basically lose. So those are quite big numbers, right? Hence now is why my job and my mission is simply just to let you aware that these are big numbers, and if I could even just help one person and to reduce that number, then I've basically done my job and my purpose as a mentor or as a coach. Odin study, you can Google him. His name is Terry Odin. He's based in Berkeley. I don't know if he still lives in Berkeley, but he created as part of his research while he was in business school is to find what is the success rate of stock traders, and simply also for day traders. So he took 65,000. He went through a brokerage firm and took the 65,000 on accounts and basically analyzed it and stated the following. Traders were buying stocks that had risen or fallen substantially in the 6 months prior to buying. In other words, they buy too late. 2, there are lots of stocks to follow, and a lot of traders jump into stocks that have sharp moves or a lot of media attention. Hence, simply like CNBC, Bloomberg, and part of the media that are trying to push the price. But and I know wholesale traders are not buying at retail price. They're buying at wholesale price, at institutional price. And in order for institutional prices, in order for them to make money, is to sell at retail. And how do they do that? Is simply by advertising through media like CNBC or the Wall Street Journal, hype up basically the stock, or I don't know, the futures, commodity or whatnot, in order to sell it, right? In order for them to make money at retail. That's how it works. 3, momentum traders jump in the biggest gainers and bargain hunters pile in on troubled issues. In other words, they follow the crowd and they do not have a trading strategy. It's kind of scary, but it's kind of true. A lot of traders simply don't have a strategy. They learn a strategy and then they want to make their own. I've met traders who want to rather simplify the strategies, they want it more complex. So they create automated type of system. Not unless if you're in an institution where you have a high frequency type based on algorithmic, this is the only way you can make money. I've seen this type of algorithmic proprietary hedge fund type of trading. It costs a lot of money in order for those to be created. They have a high success rate. I know Goldman Sachs is a 92.5 success rate when it comes to day trading based on high frequency. They're just scalping 5 cents, 2 cents, 10 cents here and there, right? Traders have a strong tendency to sell the wrong stocks. Audience said that traders strongly prefer to sell their winning investments and hold on to their losing investments. Even though the winning investments they sell subsequently outperform the losers, they continue to hold. So traders do not like to admit that they have made a mistake and sell a losing trade. They much prefer to sell a stock at a profit, which makes them feel like a winner. As a result, traders cut out the good stocks and keep the poor ones. Based on risk management, unfortunately I've seen this type of trading as well. They're not willing to give up because they want to be right, and hence they let their losers longer and then they cut the winners way too short, right? So it is a common issue, and it's also a very easy thing to fix actually as a mentor, as a coach. Right, moving on. Day trading, fact about day trading, and I can only speak to currency trading. Forex for Noobs created, or simply they have a research based on 400 traders, and they found that traders who trade larger frames are generally more profitable. This is especially true for the 1 hour time frame and above. This is based on data over 400 traders. 5 is the median or the mean of profitability. So if you're trading less than 1 hour, the unprofitability will actually be less. So 1 minute chart, 5 minute chart. Hence, as a currency trader, I don't go more less than 1 hour except for opportunities trading the news. Once we know the direction, it's actually easy to trade on a smaller time frame. 95 to 98% of my trades are all swing trades, and I use the daily chart. And this is basically what I got. Simply, I used to be a day trader. I used to trade 50, 100 times a day. And there's a lot of pressure, a lot of emotions. And then after getting a lot of coaching, I changed my time frame in my profile. I need to sit into the profile as a swing trader. And every basically thing changed. The lesser you trade, the more money you're going to make. And it is a fact. Okay, I'm not going to make it up. It's just an actual fact. So if you're a type of person who wants to day trade, yes, it is fun, but maybe perhaps meditate on it, and maybe perhaps you're just after the challenge or the adrenaline for it. Trading, it could be very boring. I only trade less than an hour a day. In actual fact, it would be lesser than that, because since I teach 2 times a day, I know what the market space is, simply where it's going to go. It's so easy. Trading is very easy. It became more easier as a trader when I started teaching. And the reason is because once you're in the market, it's almost 24/7. You know the behavior of what the market is simply going to do. To simply put, you know that once you know the behavior, you already know what the next move of the market is simply going to do, right? This is what makes it way easy. Now, on a day trading environment, there's a lot of emotions that come into play. So imagine if you are not well rested, you're dehydrated, you're half asleep, you're tired, and then you come home and you're basically, or your boss was nagging you do this, there are a lot of negative emotions into play, and you start day trading. Man, the probability that you're going to win is very, very small. All right, let's move on. part of that, when I showed you in terms of the fact, this what creates me in terms of my mission as a peak performance trader coach is to simply to create a possibility of transforming traders through education and inspiration that will make a difference in their lives through discipline, integrity, excellence, and self-awareness. These are the 4 highly valuable values that I see when it comes to trading in terms of profitability and consistency. And the reason is you need discipline, you need to have a high level of integrity. Integrity for me means that if you say you're going to do it, make sure you do what you say. So in other words, it's a promise of man's word that if you say it, you make sure you have to do it. For example, if you're going to say to a person, I'm going to meet you at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, then make sure you're going to meet that person at 5 o'clock in the morning, regardless of the rating or basically there's a storm. Unless you tell them, hey, do you agree that it's going to rain tomorrow? Then we can't make it and can't make it. So how does it relate to trading? If you're day trading, if you say to yourself, well, I'm only willing to risk $100, then so be it. No more, no less. That if it goes through, you're losing $100, then you have to exit at $100. Excellence. There is no such thing as perfectionism when it comes to trading. We can only achieve excellence. Also in sport. There's no perfectionism in sport. You can only attain excellence, and if you perform to your utmost ability, then regardless whether if you win or lose, you're still going to be a champion. And lastly, everything's about self-awareness. With everything that we have currently at this point in time, based on technology, it is so easy to be on a hypnotic state and not to be aware of what we do on a day-to-day basis, unfortunately. But we need self-awareness when we're trading. Are we following each and every rule in what we're doing? Are we executing at the right time, at the right place, at the right moment, with no fear, and it's just you being in the zone with the marketplace? So to achieve self-awareness through meditation is actually the key to it. Right. $1,000,000 question is simply, how can you win and profit consistently? Okay. I will go through about the concept of trading versus sport. Okay, Cornell also basically stated that trading the market is simple but not easy. Unfortunately, I'm going to argue with that. Cornell, it's like a sport, it's like a job. Once you get into a certain job and you've mastered them, you've basically done more than 10,000 times, it becomes easier each time. So as a trader, and if you're currently in the markets pretty much all the time, trading is very easy, to be honest. It is simple and it is easy. With the most simplistic type of trading strategy, it becomes way too easy. You know what makes it challenging is the third eye view, because you need to have at the same time the intuitive process, the feeling. So simply put, since we're in a concept of trading versus sport, each athlete who would like to compete at an Olympic level has to train almost every day, and they have to prepare basically every 4 months, because the Olympics happens every 4 months. And when that moment comes, they only have one chance within that moment. Once they trained and they do the same process over and over again, it's only up to them based on their performance through mindset, physically, spiritually, and mentally. And once everything falls in line, this is where you get into a zone. Trading is also the same. Yes, at the very beginning, it's going to be more of a challenging thing to do because you're learning. You're in a learning environment. You're in a learning stage. At elite level, it's also the same. There is no way that a sprinter who's new to the sprinting game can automatically go to the Olympic level. No, because they have these guys who's been in the game longer, who are more experienced, that can basically beat them just like that, right? There's a great documentary that I highly recommend for you to watch. It's called Usain Bolt. You know the sprinter Usain Bolt, right? If you Google him on YouTube, There's a documentary. It's about an hour and a half, or less than an hour and a half, and it explains on how, I love what he basically stated. People always see that running is easy, but they never see about the hard work that I put in. Trading is also the same. When I say trading is easy, but you never see me on the amount of work that I put in within my trading, the amount of money I put into trading. Yeah, when it comes to cost in terms of the trading education, you will get what you pay for. There are a lot of free stuff out there. There are also a lot of cheap stuff out there. But the result is also a reflection on what you pay. Simply put, you go to Stanford University, yeah, it might be a little bit more expensive, but at least you get the quality of education compared to a community college. I believe trading is also the same, and also I believe when it comes to sport versus trading, it also depends on the school that you go to and who the coach is and who you're dealing with, right? Based on experience and based on the strategies on what they can create or what they can teach. Right, moving on. Let's take professionals versus amateurs. Let's take professional sports. So what I mentioned to you before, they train every day, three times a day, 6 days a week, part of their competition. So just imagine you now trying to compete against Ronda Rousey, who is a UFC champion, and against Manny Pacquiao, who is a 8-time world champion. Now, if all of us are going to go to the ring and compete against them, what do you think the odds that we're going to win against them? Big or small? Oh, there we go. So Brian used to be an elite athlete as well. He used to run. Running is easy. Running fast is hard, and winning is very hard. Yes, correct. So what are the odds and probably we're going to win against them? Small, right? Okay, here we go. Let's move on to the next slide. What are the odds do you think you're going to win against them if you don't have the skills nor the proper knowledge or the education against these guys who are professionals? What do you think? Beautiful. Thank you, Brian. Next to zero. Absolutely. Okay. Has any of you been to the floor by any chance? Have anyone been to Chicago or to New York, the New York Stock Exchange or the CME? If you have an opportunity, please go and have a look, right? Because it's kind of be very interesting for you to see, because they can see proper order flow. If you're looking at a normal chart, you can't see proper order flow, even if you have a level 2 type of trading environment, right? So highly recommend it. Right. Next, let's move on. And absolutely is quite a zero. So is there a difference between sport and trading, in my opinion? No, there is nothing at all. The only difference is simply the physical aspect. Yes, in sport, there's more of physicality you need to use, but in trading, you don't need to use the physical. Actually, in actual play, you only need is your finger, right? But in terms of the mindset component, there is nothing in terms of the process on how to master a skill is also going to be the same, regardless will it be a sport or will it be a business or your career as in terms of your job. When you applied for your job, were you very skilled or did you do it easily? I don't think so. It took time for you in order to master that skill within your working environment. Now, one factor that we cannot control in trading and sport is that there is no certainty that you are going to win. Now, if you can grasp that component, that there is no certainty, I guarantee you will not have the fear of losing. I guarantee you that 100%. If you just grasp that there's no certainty, that if you know that if you're going to lose, say for example, if you're buying Apple, you're going long with Apple. What will stop you, what will protect your capital is your stop loss. The question is, how much are you willing to risk within that stop loss or within that trade? If you're going to say to yourself $100, then the next question you need to ask is, am I happy to lose $100? If you say to yourself, I am not happy at all, don't trade. Don't even execute. You need to find until you're happy with a certain number. If you say $50, then you're happy with it, then go for it. So the best analogy I could basically give is simply is when we're competing. If I'm competing and if I'm going to attack, if I'm going to kick and I'm going to punch, I need to always have a risk management in place. So in other words, the terminology, if there's an offense, there's a defense. There's a defense, there's an offense. The defensive mechanism is my risk management. In trading, it's also the same. If I'm going to attack the markets, what will be my risk is going to be my stop. Now, my job, though, as a trader is to be with the markets. Like I would say the markets, I'm simply talking here about big institutions. Institutional prices, not retail prices. I'm going to attack retail traders out there who has lesser experience, less knowledge in order for me to get paid. It's a zero-sum game, unfortunately, right? Which you guys know that. So why do traders lose money? Simply, just to summarize it, lack of planning and preparation. Planning and preparation is one of the key elements to successful, consistent profitability. So if you don't have a trading plan, you don't have a trading checklist, you're not well prepared, you're just going to your computer for the sake of trading, you will lose 100% guaranteed, more consistently than consistently. Lack of trading knowledge, lack of trading skill, lack of trading experience, lack of emotional control, lack of self-awareness. And talking about that, let's talk about the issues of learning. In order to create or to increase your knowledge, in order to create your skill, the mind has a certain retention rate, and this has been proven based on a school in Massachusetts, I believe it's a psychology school. I forgot the name of the guy. I have to actually find and update this slide to find the source on who created basically the learning pyramid. On a lecture-based type of learning, you will only retain, the brain can only retain about 5% of what you're going to learn, or what basically you see, what you hear on the lecture-based. Excuse me. Now, if you're reading something in order for you to want to learn, you will only retain 10% on average. Audio visual, so in this perspective, you're seeing and you're hearing what I'm talking right now. Based on the information I'm giving you, you can only retain 20%. Now, if you're learning, you're demonstrating the strategy that you're learning, then you're going to retain 30%. If you're in a group and you're discussing it, you'll retain 50%. Now, if you're practicing by doing and you're trading live on a live trading environment, then your retention rate will be 75%. Now, if you're teaching others, then your retention rate will be 90%. Hence, when I started teaching, like I said, trade became a little bit more easier, and the consistency to profit, it became more, excuse me, in terms of the profitabilities because of this component. So to teach this type, and hence why I'm coaching and teaching traders or students, is simply, not just on a 2-day or 3-day webinar, but it's an ongoing education, is because I need them, their goal is to be within this level. So in actual fact, I do all three. They go into discussion group, they practice by doing, and then they have to teach others once they've at least mastered one skill or one trading strategy. By doing that, they can increase their retention rate and their consistency in order for them to go to the next level. So this is the main issue about some training education centers out there, is because of these component seminars, right? And I've seen it, excuse me, after working basically on one trading education center, I've seen thousands of traders where they get so excited, and then after 2 weeks, the excitement basically goes. They don't email me, or they don't email basically the teacher. And simply put, is once we get to a habitual process, and you have family, you have your work, priority in terms of trading will be lessened, unless if you make trading as a major priority, of course. So this is an important pyramid. On what I always follow is simply the top 3, based on discussion, practice by doing, and teaching others. All right, let's do a quick exercise. Let's quick exercise about mastery. So you have your paper next to you. Let me know if you've got it. Have a pen next to you as well. So take out a pen and a paper. I want you to pick up the pen with your dominant hand, and then I want you to write your signature. Okay, nice. So let's go through. I want you to write your signature, change hand from the dominant hand to the less dominant hand, and now I want you to write your signature. So what did you find out? How did you do that? Like in terms of the difference between your signature with the dominant hand compared to the less dominant. This is my conclusion in terms when I say that trading becomes easy. Because if you've done it so much times, more than 10,000 times now, based on scientific research, and it's been proven, also at Olympic Training Center, that if you've trained more than 10,000 hours doing one skill, then you've mastered that skill. So in other words, it takes 10,000 hours to master one skill. Okay. So just imagine with the amount of hours or amount of times that you've written your signature over and over again based on your dominant hand. That's why it's become so easy. Your what we call the conscious, it's your unconscious competent basically is dictating that you've mastered. Now in your less dominant hand, probably you have to think about it to make it more nice and cursive, to make it a little bit more perfect, similar to your dominant hand, right? Conscious competence. There you go. Thank you, Brian. So who found that exercise useful? Like in terms just to prove it once again that once you've mastered something it becomes so easy, right? So at the very beginning, yes, trading could be very hard, could be very challenging, but once you've been more into the markets and you do more stuff and created more, probably increase more your skill, then it becomes a little bit more easier. Alrighty, there's 5 stages of learning. It's what we call the unconscious incompetence. Is simply you don't know that you don't know something. So say for example, as a beginner I didn't know anything. I used to be a real estate investor. Well, up to this day I still invest in properties. Then a friend of mine basically stated, hey, you have a degree in physics and mathematics. Maybe you would like trading because it involves some numbers. So I did go. I went to the free seminar as per everyone else, and I don't know anything about trading. The guy was talking about options. That's how I started as a level 2 buy and sell puts and calls, and bought basically the program. Went to the 2-day seminar, paid my dues, $10,000, and bingo! This is where it led to where I am today. It all started basically in 1998 when I started. Okay, conscious incompetence is simply you are now aware that you are incompetent at something. So after me going through the seminar, I created now what we call the conscious incompetent. I am now aware that I'm incompetent at something, so hence is why I joined, to be more educated. I believe in education, and as a business person, I believe that if I invest into something, then I'm going to make sure that at least the minimum return that I'm going to be investing is simply that if I'm going to use it, I'm going to make a minimum of 30%. That's my rule. Even in properties, as why I only buy positively geared properties, that was my strategy when I started, is that in order for me to do all the calculations and growth of 20%, minus all the fees, I can get at least about 10% on average, so per year, right, if I rent it out. So in trading it's also the same, that if it doesn't matter how much it will cost me to learn something, but if I use it, then if, say for example, make 10,000, if I spend 10,000, if I use that and based on that one information that I've learned, I can make 30 grand from it, then I've done my job as basically as an investor. All right, awakening moment. This is simply put that when I basically lost almost everything in 2003, this is where I had an awakening moment. I also had a trader coach, I had a trader psychologist, and basically told her, I said, hey, I don't have any money because I lost so much overnight, and I need to know what went wrong. So the awakening moment is simply addressing that, hey, maybe it's got nothing to do about the system. Maybe the problem is me. These are the traders, the clients that I have, simply if they've been trading on average about 3 years or more, but they couldn't figure it out on why they're inconsistent with their trading. It's simply they are in an awakening moment because they start to finally realize that the problem is not about the system. They finally realize that the problem is them, that they need to change their belief system and their value system in order to work with their trading system. And then from once you have the awakening moment, you will develop what we call the conscious competence. You develop a skill in that area, but still you have to think about it. Hence now you have that less dominant hand. You're conscious about it. You are aware of it. You don't have much of the skill, but at least you develop a bit more skill in order to write your signature. And last but not the least, what the unconscious competence is where you're good at it and now comes to you naturally. Trading is also the same. I do have a trading checklist, have a trading plan, but I know the methods very well. I can read price action, and I can make part of my decision making to make my proper choices faster than the normal blow job, right? Or if I'm talking here about professional traders. Now, if you have algorithmic type of trading, if you have $10 million or $100 million, you can create a high frequency type of algorithmic, then it's a totally different story, right? So, but as a normal retail trader, unfortunately, like I said, we need to be our own fundamentalist, psychologist, specialist, researcher, technical analyst, and risk manager, and so forth. We need to have all that, but it takes time. This proves once again that trading is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It takes time in order to master it. So would you really like to win consistently forever in trading? The question is how? Right. The trading success is simply 100% mindset. You know, it could be not new to people, but if you're new to this game, that's a fact. That's the secret to it. Is the 6 inches between your ears. Now, if you have a good mindset plus a good trading system, then your probability of winning will be higher as a retail trader. Not a professional or institutional type of trading, but more of a retail type of trading. All right. Here is a pyramid that I basically created on how to win forever. The key to success in terms of consistent profitability is about performance. Also knowing that you're going to win. That means that you need a lot of confidence and trust and belief that you can do it. Now, if you can't have that ability, then it's going to be a bit of a challenge, unfortunately, because you need that confidence that you're going to win. Hence, traders who win consistently are very confident within their own ability. You need to develop that. Confidence is always going to be within us. It is not there. It's like gravity. Gravity will always going to be there, regardless whether the richest man on earth, whether you're white, black, or brown, or yellow. You will have the same amount of gravity. Confidence is also the same. It's always going to be there, but the question is, how confident are you within your own ability? Of course, that all comes down to the environment. That practice is about everything. Trading is a lonely profession. If you're only doing this by yourself, then your confidence or the skill or confidence will be a little bit more lacking. Why? Because you need a good sense of environment that can also give you the same type of information. So in other words, if your system is objective, and if, say, for example, Brian learns the same stuff, and then you have Sue on the other end, you have Sharon on the other end, you have all the same system. And if everybody agrees, then that's pretty much objective. And based on if you measure that whatever you found based on your factual evidence, that what it is what it is based on within that moment, and you have the high probability, or you basically say, well, my confidence level within this trade is 99.99%, you execute and everybody agrees, then boom, that's what you need. Unfortunately, if you're trading and you're doing it by yourself, it is going to be more of a challenge. That's why I highly recommend you need to have a good support system. You need to have a trading buddy that has the same system that you're currently learning as well, because if you have that within the group, it creates also that confidence and part of the belief, right? Competition, part of the central theme is simply that you need to always compete. If you don't have the competitive edge, then why trade? As I was telling with the group last night as well, someone asked me, said, well, you know, we're in a learning stage, but we also need to pay the bills. Then I asked the student, I said, hey, you know, you've been in the program for close to 12 months. The question you have to ask yourself is, when are you going to be ready? I know you're ready. I know you have all the skill. I know you have all the tools that basically you've been taught. But when are you going to go out there and just basically put it on that, hey, you know, if the system says that you need to put in one normal standard lot, would you be able to handle that? So to be ready, there's no right time of being ready. Unfortunately, yes, the person has to know when they're ready, but once they have the skill set, it is like going to a competition, going to an Olympic event, you train for it, and then the time comes. This is where you got to perform to your best ability. Same in trading. Each and every day that we trade, we're always going to be competing at an Olympic level against other traders globally. Not just me or one person on the other end. We're talking here millions and billions of traders out there, from an institutionalized type of trading all the way to retail type of trade. Belief system, to have the philosophy that you do things better than they have ever been done before. This is the only way that you would be able to go to the next level, is by knowing how you can improve your skill. Not the why, but simply the how. Because if you're looking or answering the why, that's simply you're just looking within yourself on what's wrong with you. There is nothing wrong when it comes to trading. Trading is all about the learning process. We are in this physical world to learn, not to develop the skill of what is wrong with me because I'm a loser or I'm this or that or this. In my opinion, or in my own personal belief, we're here in this physical world to learn in terms of who we are as an individual. And part of this learning leads to what I call basically the enlightenment, right? This is also where martial arts is simply put that once you're a black belt doesn't necessarily mean that you're a black belt, you finish there. No, being a black belt simply means that how can you be better as an individual, as a martial artist, or as a person, or as an individual? I believe trading is also the same. I learn each and every day that every time I trade. And why? The beauty about the market is because the market is dynamic. Price will always change, things will always change, and I found more about myself through trading than anything else, and this is why I love trading so much. Also, respect the market. Trading is easy, and there's more trade to come. In other words, to have the abundance mentality. Ask and you shall receive, and also giving is and receiving, right? Meaning that if you're receiving from the markets, then you also have to give back a certain amount. So in other words, if the market is only telling you, hey, you can only make up to $1, you cannot ask for $1.10 because the markets only give you $1. So in other words, take it at 80 cents or 90 cents and leave the 20 cents to someone who is trading at a retail price. That's what we call the abundance mentality comes into play. Trade with enthusiasm. Trade smartly and trade objectively. I believe either you love trading or you don't love trading at all. There's nothing in between. You trade with passion, right? And if you have the desire, because if you know your purpose in trading, then this is where the motivation to trade comes into play. Be meticulous, have a certain set of rules, and my set of rules is being meticulous, always basically put a stop loss, be responsible with your own trade, and follow your own rules. Those are the 4 major rules as a trader within my own self. But you can also create this, you can create your own system, or you're going to create your own set of rules, right? Part of your belief system. Notice in terms of the pyramid that the belief system is within the foundation, because that creates your philosophy. The top is mainly the money aspect on knowing, and that if you perform to your best ability and in sync with your environment, your central theme and belief system, this is where you can make money consistently in the marketplace. The only reason why we lose money in the market is when we're no longer in sync with our beliefs and our values. Pretty interesting enough. All right. Any questions? Nothing? All right, let's go through 5 simple ways to profit consistently in the marketplace. Sorry, I'm just reading on what Reynaldo stated. If you believe that you're having a hard time reaching your goal because you lack the necessary ability and you can't do much to change that, well, there's no way. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing, Cornell. All right, 5 simple ways to profit consistently in the marketplace. Number 1 is about plan setting. Need to ask yourself, why do you want to trade? The number 1 answer for me is why I want to trade is simply to make money. Why? Because there's no limitations in terms of making money. It's not like being in a job environment where the corporate way is basically based on your entitlement. You're a database programmer. Your yearly package salary is $100,000 a year. Make it say $120,000. So in other words, you're earning $10,000 a month gross minus tax. Who knows? Maybe $8,000, $7,500. So that is being dictated. Now in the trading environment, there's no such thing. As a professional trader or as a trader, you can dictate on how much you want to make on a yearly basis. 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 500,000, a million, 10 million. So there's no limitation when it comes to trading. Number 2, what is your purpose in trading? My purpose in trading, aside from to make money, is to have the freedom to choose to do what I want to do. 1 is simply I love teaching, I love helping others. They're the 6th emotional need that each and every individual would have, or it is important that each person would need, is simply what we call the need of contribution. Obviously, not everybody will be able to teach in terms of trading. Some will have a foundation to help others, part of the contribution. So, as a former athlete, also now coach based at Stanford University, to give back to the athletes. So, as what Reynaldo stated, as we get older, we get wiser. Question is, how can you help others as well in order for the big amount of number of people who lose money in the marketplace to be reduced, right? From 98, 95 down all the way to 75%. How can we make that 50%? I believe it's through education and letting people know about the pitfalls on what they're about to get, that they're mainly going against, right? What is your vision in trading? Where do you see yourself 12 months from now, 24 months from now, 3 years, 5 years from now? What is your ultimate destination? What is your mission in trading? So part of your plan setting, these are simply your foundation on why you're trading. The why will create your motivation, why you have to get up each and every morning. As an athlete, when I think about it, why do you have to get up at 5 in the morning in order to train and run the stairs and go to the gym just merely for one competition, for one medal? And then I finally realized it's got nothing to do about the metal. It's simply to challenge myself on where I could be in terms of my sport. But in terms of trading is simply, it's the same. In my ability, I'm very competitive, and the reason why I love trading as well is to challenge myself to go to the next level and see where I can put trading, where I can put my trading to go to the next level. Not just in profitability wise, but simply me as a human being, as an individual, based on abundance, based on just greed itself, based on my discipline, based on my integrity. My highest value is integrity. However, it is a challenge for me to be on a level of integrity each and every moment. That is my learning within this. I believe in my learning in terms of this physical world is mainly to master integrity. So the question is now for you is what is it? Right, let's move on. I want you to write down 5 goals you want to achieve for your trading in the next 30 days, 6 months, 12 months. So write down 5 goals you want to achieve for your trading for the next 30 days, 6 months, 12 months. Okay, Cornell basically asks, there's a lot of advice out there, but where's the evidence that it actually works? Well, the evidence can only work within you, unfortunately, Cornell. It's not going to do within the teacher, not your neighbor, not your partner, not your kid, not your friend. But at the end of the day, it's simply of who you are as an individual. So if, in terms of listening to an advice, in my own opinion, is just a personal, it's just a perception, it's an opinion. But the question is that you're going to be asking yourself is, am I going to take that personal opinion of that person? So in other words, of that person's advice. If you take that advice from that person, now you have to put it to the test. You need to do it for yourself. So each and every person out there is totally different. Doesn't matter, it will be a trading system, doesn't matter, it will be risk management or profit maximizing strategy. So if you have the ability that you know that you'll be able to do it based on the advice, then that is where you can measure in terms of the success on what the advice that's being given to you. There's a saying that never just believe on what the person is telling you. You have to find it for yourself. So even though, from what I learned from, I'll share something with you. I had a personal coach. Yeah, I've seen him trade. He makes $20,000 a day. He makes $50,000 a day. And I took his advice. And at the end of the day, if I didn't listen to his advice, then maybe perhaps I won't be here with you either. I won't be able to have all the mistakes that I've done to be put it and read into a book or share it to my students or share it to you being here. I won't be probably in the US. I'll be somewhere else. So in other words, within that event, I bought more than 1 million shares of Lihir Gold, which is an Australian stock, during that time, and it can go up like 50 cents, $1 pretty much in one day. So my coach basically told me to buy, but deep down inside, I want to go short based on supply and demand, based on what I know. But because of when I see, I gave him that respect of him being my mentor, I took his advice. And what happened? I lost a lot of money overnight, which actually liquidated my account. Everything that I worked hard for basically just went overnight. And I created a belief that I'll never listen to anybody again. But through coaching and through my self-development, I basically self-sabotage at the end of the day. I self-sabotage myself, and my learning is simply not just to trust anybody. It's also by following your own intuition, being you on your own, having taken the full responsibility that if you choose to do it, and you do it because you choose to, which creates the freedom, then it's okay. So what I'm trying to say to you, Cornell, is simply don't just listen to anybody. Don't just listen to me. You know what I'm giving you here? I'm not giving you any advice. I'm just giving you the pitfalls on what's really happening. You can take it or you don't take it, right? But at the end of the day, simply you need to test it. Even when I'm teaching my trading systems, this is where I tell the student, open up a micro account because I want you to test it, whether if it works or it doesn't work, based on your profiling, based on your personal behavior. And then if you've seen the consistency and it works for you, then you can go to the next level, open up a mini account. You show the consistency, then you can go to the normal standard account. Unfortunately, like I said, the trading industry is not regulated in terms of the education. Anyone can open a $25,000 account, 50, even 100,000. So what I'm trying to share here is that that person or the trader can automatically go into the pit, to the octagon, where now they're trading against other black belts, and they can lose that overnight. You know, in 2008, I've seen traders lose on average more than $2 million overnight, right? So that's my recommendation anyway. That's my opinion. Okay. It is both. Okay, it's not because of what they do. It's what they do is simply an end result of who they are, Cornell. Right. This is what I'm trying to say is everything is a reflection of who we are as an individual based on our values and based on our beliefs. Our belief system has to be in sync with our value system. Now, and part of that is the end result. Whatever the end result, a great analogy is this: a simple idea, and that person takes action. Oh, who created the bulb? Thomas Edison. How many times did he try in order to experiment in order for the bulb to work? 10,000 times. Did he quit? No. In order to do that, there is a certain element or characteristic as an individual. It's called persistence. To persist and keep on going. Doesn't matter if they fail, they have to do it again until they've proven that they've succeeded. It came down to the value of persistence and the belief that they can do it. So successful people, if you see successful people, if you even talk to these people, they do it because of who they are. They never gave up. They kept on going. And this is also one thing that where traders actually leave trading, is because if they lose six times in a row, they give up. Don't give up. Keep on doing. Then find a way on how to make it work, right? I believe someone stated as well, moving from one system to the other system. Maybe perhaps there's something that you need to do is, rather than going from one system to the other, focus on just one, work on it, develop it, and then make it your own. So a great example, I have one student, right? It's on the website. Lolita works 16 hours a day. Actually, that's pretty much exaggeration, but on average 12 hours. Basically, I told her, I said, hey, if you want to be within the program, at least I need an hour from you each and every day. She wanted to get out from her job. She no longer works. She actually is a full-time trader, and she just mastered one system. And I didn't realize, not until she told me, said, hey, you know what, my accountant told me that I made money. And then bingo, and I asked her, I said, how did you do it? And then she told me just one methodology, because that's the one I only know, and that's what I'm comfortable with. So what I'm trying to say is choose one system, master it, and make it your own until you prove to yourself that you're consistent with it. And based on that, she made 150% within 9 months just using one system. So will Blowjar in the corner will be able to do the same? No. Maybe the reason for it is because Blowjar in the corner, it will also have a different individuality, personality compared to Lolita, right? Lolita had the persistence. She had the drive, she had the passion in order for her to succeed. So at the end of the day, it is who you are as an individual that dictates the end result of what you do. Alrighty, okay, moving on. To create a proper goal setting is simply using 5 different things. You need to be specific, you need to be measurable, it needs to be achievable, it needs to be results oriented, and it has to be timely framed. A great example is this. By September 30th, 2013, I now have made 300 pips trading the currency markets based on the methodology that I've learned, and the resources that I'll be using is my coach or the company that I'm currently learning how to trade from, emailing them, and have the discipline, the commitment, then the persistence in order for me to achieve my 200 or 300 pips per month, or by the end of September 7th, for example. So at least in that sense, it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's results oriented, and it's timely framed, right? Number 2, you need to know your opponent. This is actually a very important one. What vehicle are you going to trade to master? Is it going to be forex, futures, stocks, or options? If you're currently trading futures at the moment, stick to futures until you've mastered futures. Of course, futures are a lot of different things. Probably if you're trading an index future, let's say, for example, the E-mini, then stick to the E-mini until you're shown and almost basically not perfected it, but mainly making money consistently through trading futures. Who are you competing against? Obviously the markets itself. So can you defeat them? No, you can't be with them. Then you need to find a way, a trading strategy on how you can always be with the markets. What process and strategy you're going to use to defeat them or to be with them? How are you going to win consistently? Do you want to be a club champion, a state champion, national champion, world champion, or Olympic champion? These type of questions I always ask basically a trader before they sign up within even my program. I'm going to ask them, so where do you want to be? Like in terms of being a trader, you want to be a club champion or you want to be an Olympic champion? Olympic champion is simply when you're trading as a professional trader, you're trading against other Olympians out there who have the resources in the whole world and have all the skills and the knowledge in order to trade and to make money consistently in the marketplace. So at least in that sense, if you would be able to know where you want to be, that's only then the result you're going to get, part of your goals, right? Right, know thyself. You need to know who you are as an individual. You need to know what your belief systems are. And then you need to identify whether the belief systems are limiting or supporting beliefs. You need to know your value systems, and you need to identify whether your value systems are moving towards your belief or moving away towards your belief. A great example is this. I'm a very confident trader. So that is a belief, right? It's a good supporting belief. I'm a very good trader that can make money consistently in the marketplace. Now, what if your values, though, is simply dictating, I have fear of losing? Then the brain is already dictating, well, how can you be a confident trader that can make money consistently in the markets if you're fearful of losing? It doesn't work. So in order for it to be in sync, to be in synchronicity within the belief, then that your value system has to be simply like, I'm focused, I'm disciplined, I have the patience. So those are the value systems that should be supporting your belief system, which creates now your, what we call your affirmations or declarations. What emotional needs do you need when it comes to trading? So if you're a type of person who seeks a lot of certainty in the uncertainty world, then maybe perhaps you need to get a good risk management strategy in order to have the both, the form of the uncertainty, the need of certainty, and the need of uncertainty. Is your personal behavior and profile congruent to the system you are using? If you don't know that, then I highly recommend for you to get one done. What is your personal behavior? Okay, are you competitive enough to have the trading edge? So if you don't have the competitive edge, then why trade, right? Then maybe trading is simply not for you. Get educated properly to increase your skills. 1, how can you increase your knowledge? 2, how can you increase your skills? 3, how can you control your emotions of fear, greed, and regret before, during, and after trading? Let's go through looking at increasing your knowledge. Books. Books are awesome, But the question is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of reading books? I highly recommend not to read trading systems type when it comes to books, and the reason for it is because probably the book has been written back in 1999 or back in 2003 when it's on a bearish market. Now that we're in a bullish market, then the system wouldn't work, right? I have mainly more highly recommend for you to read psychology books, trading psychology books, self-development books that can move you to go to the next level in terms of your awareness when it comes to trading. Seminars. What are the advantages and disadvantages of seminars? Seminars are awesome as long as they have a good support system in the end, you know, like a 30-day coaching program or something like that to reinforce what you've learned. Because a 2-day or even a 5-day seminar is not good enough, because after 5 days, if you're not writing, you know, you will lose pretty much everything of what you've learned pretty much in a flash, right? Now, it's been proven dogs can only focus in less than 5 seconds. Human beings can only focus 15 to 45 minutes at a time, right? All right, get a mentor or trader coach. What are the advantages and disadvantages? The advantages is simply they're there for you. They can see 180 degrees that's behind you. The disadvantage depends on how much are you willing to pay, but they're very expensive. I mean, as a mentor, as a trader coach, I'm not that cheap either. And the reason is because we put in a lot of time and effort in order for us to see the 180 degrees that's behind you. And plus, there's a certain element or ingredient in terms of the way how, and simply just on my own personal perspective, an ingredient in order for you to be successful being a student and in regards to your trader coach. Ongoing education is highly imperative. My ongoing education for me is simply more of the self-development perspective, no longer in terms of the system component. Don't be cheap. If this is simply something that you really want to do, you see yourself in the next 3 years or 5 years getting out of your job because you want to trade more full-time, then when it comes to education, don't be cheap. Like I said, there are a lot of free stuff out there, but what you pay for is also what you're going to get. Right. All right. Balance is the source to be in the zone. Okay. How do you maintain balance mentally? How do you maintain balance physically? How do you maintain balance spiritually? All right. Alan Williams I took this from a great book called The Intuitive Trader by Robert Capel. And Alan Williams is a PhD researcher and interviewed floor traders at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and summarized it in one. So she found that the best traders condition themselves psychologically and physically for success. They have running programs, they go to the gym, they meditate, they are careful about what they eat. In short, they take excellent care of themselves. So in trading, it's not just about pressing the trigger and just going there looking at chart. No. The brain cannot function, like I said, if you are dehydrated. The brain cannot function if you are not well rested. The brain cannot function if you haven't gotten anything to eat. The brain cannot function if you don't exercise on a regular basis. And when it comes to trading, to know what the future is. Remember about technical analysis when I talked to you last week. Technical analysis is about forecasting price movement that's based in the future, also based in the past within the present moment, right? That is the third dimension, because based on probability, you need to know where the price is going to be. Is it going to the upside, downside, or sideways based on your probability? Now, meditation can help you not just develop the intuitiveness, but also the focusedness in terms of the way how you analyze the markets. To be in a zone, once you're in a zone, probably some of you have experienced this, sometimes you can actually see the numbers that's in front of you even before it happened. It is simply put, as an athlete, it is easy to see the opponent, and you will automatically know what the opponent is even going to do even before they have even done it yet. So in other words, once they start to kick, you would know which leg they're going to kick. You would know which hand that they're going to punch. It's through the reaction of the body even before it hits you. This is where you're going to wave to the side or to the left, back or front, right? So the intuitive part is an important tool. Part of the book, The Intuitive Trader, hence the word intuitive trader. There is one aspect that we need, is the right side of the brain, which is their intuition. That's only one component that I won't be able to teach or help a student, is through the intuition or the feeling component. I can help them, I can teach them how to develop their intuition. Remember, intuition is always going to be part of us. Intuition, I believe, is about meditation, visualization, right? So that's a very important component in terms of your trading, not just technical analysis. So I'm going to show you some live trading results. Of course, past results are not considered a reliable guide for future results. So from June, July, notice how there's only pretty much one negative one right there. So just one right there. So I'm not here to basically impress you, but simply show that it is possible in order to be a consistent, profitable trader. So as what George St. Pierre is one of my favorite athletes. He's basically saying it is easy to be a champion, but to maintain being a champion is a challenge. Also, there's a reason why I have a coach at this point in time, is because sometimes my cup will get full. How can I empty that cup? Is through being also a student, being coached by someone else, to know what my belief systems are, that it will become, then I'm going to be aware more of those, about my values as well. So a powerful mindset plus a proven trading system creates a consistent, profitable trader. They need to go hand in hand. They have to be both, like being an athlete, or being in your own business, or being your own career. How to be consistent? One, you need to have a trading plan, have a coach as much as possible. If this you really want to do this, you have a good set of trading rules. You need to know and trust your trading methods and system, what you've either created or learned from someone else. Get educated and be competitive. Practice to increase your trading skills. Highly recommend an hour a day. A good practice is simply going through bar by bar, candle by candle, and see what the next one's going to be. It's going to go up or going to go down. And reading price action, knowing supply and demand, trends, and so forth. You need to control your emotions. You need to be disciplined, be responsible, be in a motive or in excellence, have a high level of integrity. One of my mentors, as well, his name is Marshall Silver, stated, in order for your results to change, you must change. No one else. No one is going to do it for you except you alone. So it's not going to be your wife, your husband, your brother, your sister, your parents, your friends, no one else but you. So if you're going to keep on doing the same things today without personal change, where do you think you can see yourself 12 months from now? Well, it's the same question of what we started earlier, right? So it's a good thing to know. And when I basically lost overnight and got into depressed mode for about a week, and I basically read that and I was like, bam, okay, it's time to get out of my cave, get out there and do some action. And that's when things have changed. All right. Okay, so I've received a few applications, but I'm going to be receiving 10. So basically for August, it's simply my gift, being my birthday. August, my birthday is a birthday month. So I'll be personally coaching for 30 days, 10 traders. We're teaching 2 simple trading methods, because to teach the other method actually will take more than 2 months. It will take at least 12 months to master it. So you'll receive some trade alerts in order for you to see how the methodologies work in the real trading environment. And obviously you'll be trading live as well. By the way, this is simply for forex only for now. Excuse me, even though the methodologies work for futures and stocks. And my goal is to teach 10 traders to be a consistent, profitable trader. I'm not going to accept anybody though, so even though I'm saying 10, but it also depends on me as well, whether if the person is pretty good, but it's within the criteria of what I'm looking for. So simply they're committed, they're hardworking, they're disciplined, will do anything to succeed, they're open-minded and willing to change in the way how they want to trade, right? Especially if a habit's already been done, it's a little bit more of a chance to change that habit. Research shows that scientists have found it will take 27 days on average in order to redo a habit, a bad habit, in order to get into a good habit. Also to reprogram the subconscious from a negative belief to a positive belief. Right. So if you believe this, you email me, Reynaldo@esctrade.com with coupon code INSPIRE. However, as there's a commitment fee of $99, which is non-refundable, and also to test or part of that, if you don't have the $99, then automatically say something about the person. And my community is to make these 10 traders consistent, powerful traders. The class will start on September 7th of 2013. So there's 8 more positions left. So if you believe that you're the right candidate, then email me. All right, what are 2 or 3 most powerful things you have learned from this workshop? Last question for the day before we wrap it up. So what were the 2 or 3 most powerful things you learned from this workshop? All right, anyone want to share? Is anybody still there? Well, you're thinking or writing down or coming back to your seats. I'm located here. Our office is at 830 Stewart Drive, Suite 121, Sunnyvale. However, I'm currently just find a much bigger office, so I'll be moving to downtown San Jose. That can fit probably around 8 traders at a time. And I know that we have a trader dojo simply Monday and Wednesdays, but my goal is to have a little more on a day-to-day, basically Monday to Friday, trader dojo, and more classes, more workshops as well. So yeah, and if you're within the area, let me know, email me, and I would love to meet you guys. All right, so nice. What do we have here? John, say, Bing says learning curve, discussion group 50%, retention rate, great. Hungley says the unconscious idea that you mentioned, awesome. John says to be committed. Jay says never realized 100% retrain his mindset until today's lesson. Yes, so that's the reality for it, Jay. The problem may not be with your system, but it might be with you. Absolutely, Brian. And to be committed and take responsibility. Sharon says the measures have been something I have heard before, but it's always great to have the repetition. Absolutely, of trading aspects brings you back to the basics. Yes. So thank you very much, guys, for your interaction. I know I went over by 20 minutes. Hope you enjoyed it, and I wish you all the best with your trading. Probably the next free webinar or class will be in about 2 weeks, or it's actually 3 weeks, because next week will be Labor Day, so it'll be a long weekend. So yeah, in about 3 weeks' time. Hit me up as well on email. If you maybe a topic that you want to discuss, and I'm more than happy to actually do it for you guys. No cost, but of course, as a normal trader, educator, I'm always looking for students who would like, to go to the next level in their trading. And if you want to go to the next level and you want to mentor a coach, I'm here for you. Thank you very much for your time once again. Take care until next time. Happy trading, guys.